Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at another one of the balance updates from the Season 24 update for Go Battle League, and today we're taking a look at Latias. Latias got access to Aura Sphere, which, as we know from Togekiss, is an absurdly good move. 80 damage, only 40 energy. Pairing that with the fact that Dragon Breath is now a Psywave clone and it already had an amazing move in Mist Ball, and Latias turns into a surprisingly competent anti-meta mon that can really catch some teams off guard. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1 we're off to a bit of a tricky start, leading Unova Stunfisk into Giratina. Now Giratina does suffer a little bit from the rework to Dragon Claw, as obviously Dragon Breath being Psywave is a plus, but Dragon Claw, which was its cheapest move, is now a lot more expensive. Dragon Claw will inflict some serious damage though onto the Stunfisk. My goal here is to soft lose this lead and then just go for energy on the Latias. Mud Bomb will land. I will not get my second Mud Bomb, but I'm very okay to just send in Latias and go for a farm down. In comes Latias, opponent pivots into Shadow Empoleon. Oh my goodness. This is a great spot to be as Latias. We have Aura Sphere. We're going to outpace the Empoleon due to our energy head start. Empoleon now in shambles as they cannot escape. They will go for the Drill Peck, but I can get to the Aura Sphere and they're going to have to burn that final shield. The one thing I have to watch for is a potential catch back onto the Giratina. That's their win con at this point in this game. That's the only way they can save this Empoleon. I'm going to farm and throw in the middle of the Metal Sound so they're unable to get that catch. Aura Sphere is going to land, down goes Empoleon, and Latias picks up the KO. In the back is going to be Shadow Marowak. They're going to bank a Bone Club and send in Giratina. The only way I lose is if Giratina is for some reason able to make a move that would put me into Bone Club range. So I'm just going to fire off my Aria. I can get an Aria into the Marowak, and while this won't KO from full health, it gets them low enough that I will be able to take this win. Rock Slide with the extra damage this season will hit very, very hard, so I will get farmed down, but in comes Latias. One Dragon Breath later will secure that win. Bad lead in game number 2 leading into a Dunsparce. I save switch into Latias, and my opponent responds with Togekiss. But the funny thing about the Latias-Togekiss matchup is that Togekiss is actually walled here. They have Aura Sphere and they have Psyshock, both of which are resisted by Latias. I'm going to build up to the Mist Ball, bait with the Aura Sphere, and the bait is successful as now I'm either just going to KO the Togekiss or force their final shield. My opponent is going to give up the final shield, but I get the attack drop, which means now their Aura Spheres are going to be doing basically nothing to the Stunfisk. Stunfisk, always going to be no shielding, as Aura Sphere, it adds up quite a bit if they're not debuffed. But unfortunately for my opponent in this moment right here, these debuffed Aura Spheres are not doing a lot. Here, unfortunately, I just miscount. I've been doing quite a bit of battles this evening, and unfortunately my tiredness got to me a little bit there, so I end up miscounting, playing to a CMP tie that I do not win, but I'm able to hang on and still have 2 shields, and it's going to be Lapras versus Dunsparce. With 2 shields, Lapras will be able to very comfortably handle Dunsparce, and I'll be at very full health for whatever they have in the back. My opponent in the back, oh no, it's Shadow Charizard. They were probably better off sending Charizard into the Latias. But obviously seeing a dragon type, I imagine they thought Togekiss was pretty safe, because most people do not expect to see a Latias as the safe swap. So I will be shielding up the Rock Slide, and I can get to the back-to-back Arias, so this game will be over. Aria number 1 is going to be getting them low. We won't even need a Skull Bash, we can just go for Aria number 2 to take this win. So Aria lands, down goes the Dunsparce, and Latias forcing both shields in the mid-game helps us take the win. We move to the next match, picking up a very nice lead, leading into Volt Switch Fortress with Stunfisk. But their Altaria safe switch is going to give me some trouble as I don't have a clear answer. My Lapras doesn't have Ice Beam, so I don't really want to send that in, and Latias would get outpaced, because obviously I'd have to make it all the way to a Mist Ball. So I decide to stay in, land a move, wait for them to throw a Flamethrower, and then just send in the Lapras. I'm very comfortable no-shielding as Lapras and just looking to Psywave them into Sparkling Aria range, but with the new switch timer, the clock is already up. In comes Fortress, and I'm just going to start chipping away at the Fortress with the Lapras. Sparkling Aria is going to connect. They do outpace due to the fact that they threw 1 Volt Switch before switching earlier. Rock Tomb's going to knock me out, but I have a ton of energy on this Stunfisk, and my opponent should be nowhere close to an Earthquake. So I can go for the Mud Bomb, and I'm going to build up to the back-to-back to ensure that I exit with a little bit of energy. Mud Bomb into this fortress will pick up the knockout. What do they have in the back, or do they choose to send in Altaria? It's going to be Azumarill. Azumarill, that's not really what I was hoping to see, considering I have a Latias as my final Pokemon, but let's see what Stunfisk can do. My opponent throws on alignment here because they want to try and guaranteed force the shield with the Ice Beam. I will get to the back-to-back discharges. If my opponent ends up shielding both, then I can potentially land a Mist Ball endgame. If they end up no-shielding this, then things could get a little bit tricky and I'll have to go for double Aura Sphere. They do end up no-shielding, so it's going to have to be the double Aura Sphere route. I do get outpaced by one singular turn. They go for the Ice Beam, and now they're going to have to switch into Altaria. Altaria going to be hit with the Aura Sphere. Altaria has to put up the shield. They need to land the Sky Attack to have a chance in this game. They will get to the Sky Attack. Now we get to check the bulk on Latias. Sky Attack lands. Latias actually tanks that surprisingly well. We get to the Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere is going to be knocking Altaria out of the sky. In comes Azumarill. Azumarill does not get the bubble down, and Latias just put the team on his back, KOing Azumarill, KOing Altaria, and securing the win. Moving to the next match, we see a familiar lead leading into Dunsparce. Save switch Latias, and unfortunately, I throw one too many Dragon Breaths, and that allows them to catch the Aura Sphere onto a Shadow Charizard. That's a pretty silly misplay from me, but I'm not going to let that misplay discourage me from still trying to get this win. I am going to be shielding up the Air Cutter from the Charizard, farming down, and I exit with a ton of energy. In comes a Peck Togekiss, and I have enough for the Mist Ball, but I'm getting greedy. I bait with the Aura Sphere. That's going to allow me to get to the Mist Ball, and now Togekiss will have to give up both shields. Togekiss, it's really, really strong, but it's uniquely actually kind of awkward into the Latias. They bring in the Dunsparce, I send in the Lapras, and I think what I have to do to win this game is save the shield for the Stunfisk. And that means Lapras is going to have to take 2 buffed Rock Slides, which actually do quite a bit of damage this season. Unfortunately, I will not be able to get to the Skull Bash, so I'm forced to just settle for the Aria, and I have to hope that this is getting closer and closer to Mud Bomb range. They will go for the Drill Run. I'm putting up the shield on Stunfisk, and this will be an interesting game because they do have a ton of energy on the Togekiss, and there it is. Togekiss switches back in, Aura Sphere connects, and the Aura Spheres do add up quite a lot now that they aren't debuffed like they were in that previous game. Aura Sphere number 2 lands. If a third Aura Sphere connects, I'm going to lose this. Discharge will do a lot of damage to Togekiss, and I decide to commit to the farm down. We get the farm down, and that will secure the win. I knew Dunsparce wasn't quite in Mud Bomb range, and I didn't trust that 4 Thundershocks plus the Mud Bomb would knock out. I get to Mud Bomb number 2. I don't know if that was a game hiccup there, or if I just didn't tap my screen for one turn, but either way, it doesn't end up mattering. Move KOs, we take the win. We pick up a bit of a tricky lead in the next match, leading into a Hypno. Hypno obviously can have super effective Ice Punch, which would be bad for Stunfisk and Latias, and Thunder Punch for the Lapras. I'm always going to be no-shielding the Stunfisk. The Stunfisk is the damage sponge, and they're actually on Psyshock. I do think Psyshock is a smart choice for Hypno, as it allows Hypno to actually do damage neutrally. Psyshock connects. It looks like that will barely not put me in 1 confusion range, so I can actually win the zeros as Stunfisk. That's very, very nice, and I'll basically just look to save switch Latias into whatever they bring in. Latias has really nice coverage into most things. It's going to be a Togekiss. That's really good for me, but what's bad for me is going to be a Wigglytuff. Oh, this is not good. Latias will fire off the Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere is going to land. Looks like a second Aura Sphere may actually just knock out the Wigglytuff, so I will get a shield. Unfortunately, that Charm did not KO, so they do exit with quite a lot of energy. Now, Charm does a lot less damage this season, but it does generate more energy. Swift will connect into the Lapras, and unfortunately, I get outpaced. They have another Swift. I can't afford to shield this because they already have an Aura Sphere banked on the Togekiss, and I think I'm just too low. I still have both my shields, but I'm just going to get pecked down by the Togekiss unless I can hang on and make it to the double Sparkling Arias, but I'm just not going to get there. By 1 win con, the Hail Mary Skull Bash into Togekiss will get shielded, and that's going to be game, as Stunfisk will get pecked down. We move to the next match, looking for a bit of redemption, but that's a really bad lead. Stunfisk into Komo-o. I save switch into Latias. Latias will be answered with a Shadow Scizor, and this is fine up energy for the Latias. I can always force shield or switch advantage. I'm farming up as the Latias, making it to the Aura Sphere number 2, but they will actually CMP tie. I decided to shield because I want to try and get the 1-0s. The 1-0s is where Lapras is going to do better. And judging by the bullet punch damage, it looks like my opponent did actually get the boost. That's really bad, because that means this Trailblaze is going to do so much damage to the Stunfisk. And look at it, Stunfisk barely survives, but they save the Scizor and they catch onto Komo-o. Komo-o obviously will not get a sneak there, but now I have to try and farm down with the Lapras. Psywave's adding up quite a bit. Komo-o now has upper hand. I have to respect the upper hand damage. They do get the debuff, but I get the full Psywave down. That's big. If they bring in the Scizor, I know Scizor is pretty close to an Night Slash. I believe they're only 3 off. It's going to be Clodsire in the back. I have the energy lead that I need to win this game. The thing I have to watch for is that Scizor. I don't want to let them get to a Stone Edge, so I will throw here. I'm thinking even though I'm debuffed, I'm probably not in Night Slash range. I'm just going to stay in, and that ends up paying off as I will get to the Sparkling Aria. My only worry is that if I tried for a catch and failed the catch, I would give them the energy they needed to get a Trailblaze and win the game. Great lead in the next match, Stunfisk into Togekiss, but an absolute nightmare on the safe switch, as it's going to be Furret. I am triple weak to Furret, so this is very bad. I don't really have an amazing response to Furret. When I was team building, it wasn't really a mon that I was considering. This is going to be a very uphill game. Trailblaze lands. At the very least, I can survive a Trailblaze on Stunfisk, so I will just look to get it low, and then try and go for a one-shield farm down with Lapras. However, this is a scenario where the 45-second switch timer instead of the 50 means that my opponent can actually just switch here. They're not stuck in this matchup at all, and that means they can now just spam out Aura Spheres with Togekiss. The threat of an Ice Beam should be good enough to get a shield for my opponent, and it does. And now I'm just going to go straight for the Sparkling Aria. I just want damage on this Mon. My opponent is going to be no shielding. Clock's up, so I could have brought in the Stunfisk, but Stunfisk also at this health range would not be a fan of an Aura Sphere, so I will bring in the Stunfisk and just click no shield. I really need Latias to try and sweep here, and my opponent makes a really nice play. They snipe down with the Marowak. Now, Latias can win the 2s against Marowak just by outpacing it as long as you're not down energy, but in the 1s, unfortunately, the Dragon Breaths plus Aura Sphere do not do enough to knock out, so I will end up losing this one. My opponent also has a 1 Mud Slap head start that allows them to outpace, but even if they didn't have that, we're going to end up seeing that the Aura Sphere just does not KO here. It's very, very close to KOing because it's an amazing move, but Marowak barely hangs on, and we will lose that game. We see a very familiar lead leading into Komo-o. I save switch into the Latias. Komo-o is going to stay in to throw a move, and Latias' pacing is just so nice. We outpace it, we force a shield with Aura Sphere, and I'm more than happy to shield back. They will go for an upper hand bait and then send in Scizor. But Scizor gets outpaced because I have that 1 Dragon Breath head start. I can get to the Aura Sphere, force a shield from the Scizor, and now I'm very comfortable just to bring in the Stunfisk. Stunfisk will be no shielding everything. I'm hoping that I can survive a Trailblaze and then the Night Slash that follows. It's going to be very close. I do have a very good Stunfisk. I have a lot of HP on this Stunfisk. Can we hang on? We do hang on. That is such a clutch survive from my Stunfisk. This is going to be the end of Scizor, and then I can just bring in Lapras, and it's actually the same team that I played 2 games ago. So I wonder if someone made an infographic where they put this team, the Komo-o Scizor Clodsire team. This Clodsire is on Sludge Bomb, and I'm very close to the back-to-back Arias, so this game should just be a win. Aria lands, I get Aria number 2 on charge attack priority, and unfortunately for the Komo-o, there's just no way out because Lapras still has a shield to hide behind. So Komo-o can go for the upper hand, but I have a shield and I can just make it to the Sparkling Aria. There is the upper hand. Will we see the debuff? We do see the debuff. Komo-o is a Pokemon that I do want to try, whether it's Dragon Tail or Metal Sound. Komo-o's moveset is incredibly cool. Hopping to the final match, leading Stunfisk into Altaria. Again, a matchup that I don't necessarily want to switch out of. I'm very comfortable just staying in for a while, getting the Altaria low, and then once it's low, then I can look to send in Latias. So in the meantime, we're going to trade a couple discharges for a couple flamethrowers, and then the fun will begin once Latias hits the field. I assume the Altaria isn't quite in double discharge range yet, so I won't throw back to back. I fire off this discharge. Yeah, it looks like they will barely survive. I would have thrown there, but they will throw one before me, and now I can look to switch. In comes Latias. Altaria is going to be switching into a Thunderfang Steelix. Now, Steelix is a Pokemon we were very worried about with obviously the rework to Dragon Tail and Breaking Swipe, but considering the fact that Breaking Swipe is so expensive, I honestly think that Steelix may still end up considering Thunderfang like this trainer is here, just because Thunderfang obviously gives you positive matchups into all the waters and flyers. This Steelix full sends Earthquake. I'm so happy I decided to shield that. We have a ton of energy. It's going to be Scizor. They try and catch. They don't get the catch. And this is just a Latias absolute masterclass in back. Aura Sphere is shielded. There's another Aura Sphere loaded and ready to go. Shadow Scizor, massive damage. They barely cling on. 1 HP left. Stunfisk has a move, but I can just shield. Thundershock goes through. Down goes Scizor, and that's a good game. As I mentioned at the start, I think Latias, it's an anti-meta pick. It's not like a must-have top 3 PV poke or anything like that. It's more anti-meta. But I think its coverage is really, really interesting. And surprisingly, it has really okay bulk for being a Great League Legendary Pokemon. Most of the time, the Great League Legendaries, you can't ever really have them take a hit. But Latias, as opposed to Latios, has significantly better bulk. And so that's what gives Latias the edge over Latios. I did end up having to trade for this. I believe this was available in 2023, maybe during the Hoenn Tour. I think it was from February of 2023. There was some event where Latias was either a research or spawning or something, but it was a Great League eligible Latias. It went lucky, as you can tell from the IVs, but it still just stayed low enough that it was Great League eligible, so I'm very grateful for that. But this was just such a fun Mon to run. I don't think this is the best team ever for it. You could probably build a team that is less triple weak to Furret, as the one time I saw Furret, I got absolutely steamrolled. But Latias itself really felt like it held its own. Aura Sphere every 10 turns is ridiculous, and Mist Ball, I don't think I ever got to land a Mist Ball because everyone is just afraid of that amount of damage, but I think it's really intriguing coverage and makes this a cool anti-meta Mon that, while it's not a top Mon I'd recommend, I still think it's a Mon people can win with. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is so sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.